Welcome to the deep dive, where we really get into the weeds on fascinating stories, big ideas, and today, well, a genuine cinematic landmark. A film that didn't just entertain, it changed things.
That's right. We're talking Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Exactly. And we've done our homework. We've got a pretty detailed examination lined up looking at its groundbreaking story, the themes that still hit hard, and the legacy it left behind.
Which is huge.
It really is. Our mission, if you will, for this deep dive is to unpack why T2 isn't just this amazing action spectacle. And believe me, it is an incredible action movie, but why it's also such a profound piece of storytelling. Why does it still resonate, decades later? We're going to get into the visual effects, which were just revolutionary. There's character development, which is deeper than you might expect, and that really compelling emotional core that just sets it apart.
And I think what's so striking about T2, like you said, it builds on the first film, which was already terrifying. But it constructs this narrative that just goes so much further than a typical sequel. It wasn't just about bigger action. The philosophical stakes got higher, too.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, we'll explore these complex ideas, destiny, what it means to be human, technology, all woven into this relentless, high-octane package. It's one of those rare films that really makes you think long after it's over, makes you question things.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The movie, it just throws you right in, doesn't it? Straight into this incredibly dark, chilling vision of the future.
No gentle easing in. Bam. Apocalypse. Exactly. Cameron doesn't just, hint at it. He drops us right into the middle of it. 2029, Earth is basically a wasteland, post-apocalyptic, machines rule, Skynet's in charge.
It's weak, nuclear fire, skulls underfoot, the whole 9 yards. It's visually arresting from frame one.
Totally. And you see, humanity isn't just fighting back. They're barely surviving. It's this desperate, ragged war for existence.
Right. Scrambling through rubble, constantly hunted. It establishes the stakes so effectively, so viscerally, right from the start. And it's not just any future war. It's the war, isn't it? For humanity's actual existence.
Exactly. And it all seems to center somehow on this one figure. John Connor.
The leader. The hope.
Yeah, he's this whispered name in the resistance, the one who's finally starting to turn the tide against Skynet's legions.
Yeah.
The film makes it crystal clear he's not just a commander.
Yeah.
He is the future, humanity's last hope, which, of course, makes him target number one for the machine.
That extinguish that hope before it really catches fire.
Precisely. And that singular focus gives everything that follows, every chase, every fight, this incredible weight. You feel the survival of the species hanging in the balance. It's brilliant setup.
So if the first film's T-800 was scary...
Oh, yeah. Relentless.
T2 introduces something else entirely, something that just dials the dread up to 11, the T-1000.
The next level of nightmare fuel.
This is the main antagonist sent back, and it's just, wow, a massive leap. Liquid metal.
Mimetic polyalloy. Sounds fancy, basically means terrifying.
Right. It can morph, mimic anyone it touches, flow through bars, reform after being shot.
Turn its arms into blades. It's not just durable, it's fluid, almost supernatural.
And its mission is cold, simple. Kill young John Connor, 1995, before he can grow up to be that leader.
Eliminate the problem at the source. It's terrifyingly efficient, an unstoppable killing machine, but in a completely different way than the first one.
Yeah, infiltration and deception, not just brute force.
And this is where we have to talk about the effects, right?
Yeah.
The T-1000's CGI for 1991, absolutely revolutionary.
Mind-blowing. People hadn't seen anything like that.
Not even close. Before T2, CGI was, maybe some geometric shapes, brief stuff, nothing this organic, this integrated.
Rendering that liquid chrome look, making it reflect light properly, interact with the real world.
It was a monumental task. ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, they basically had to invent new software, new techniques just for this character.
Wow.
They really laid the groundwork for complex digital characters for the next couple of decades.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a cool visual effect.
No, it changed the game.
It fundamentally changed what you could do on screen.
Yeah.
Set a new benchmark. And importantly, it elevated the threat. The T-1000 felt genuinely unstoppable in a way the original T-800 didn't, because it was so adaptable, so deceptive.
It felt almost magical, its recovery.
Yeah.
Truly terrifying.
Made the original look kind of clunky by comparison, almost.
Okay, so faced with this liquid metal nightmare, what can future humanity possibly do? Feels hopeless, right?
Seems like checkmate for Skynet.
But future John Connor, he's got one desperate move left. And here's where it gets really interesting. He sends back his own protector. And who is it?
The twist.
A reprogrammed T-800, the exact same model that tried to kill his mom back in '84.
The irony is just perfect. The ultimate villain becomes the savior.
Right. The machine from Sarah's nightmares is now their only hope. It's such a brilliant reversal.
It immediately sets up this incredible character dynamic, but also, like you said earlier, digs into that fate versus free will thing.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, this narrative sophistication, turning the villain into the hero, it's not just cool, it forces you to ask, if this machine, this programmed entity, can be reprogrammed for good, does that mean fate isn't fixed? Can destiny be rewritten? It challenges that no fate but what we make idea right from the jump, but in a really interesting way.
It shows reprogramming is possible, literally.
Exactly, which maybe suggests humans can reprogram their own destiny too. And it also gave Arnold Schwarzenegger this amazing opportunity, didn't it?
Totally. From terrifying killer to almost likable.
Yeah. He maintains that imposing presence, but there's this shift towards being a protector, even paternal. And it makes his journey so compelling.
Okay, let's shift focus. 1995. And we meet the kid at the center of it all, young John Connor. Edward Furlong plays him with this raw energy.
He's great in the role. Very believable.
And he's not like some prophesied hero in waiting, is he? He's a bit of a punk, honestly.
Totally. Rebellious, street smart, living with foster parents, hacking ATMs. He's got an edge.
You're vulnerable underneath it all.
Definitely. And the reason he's with foster parents is key. His mom, Sarah Connor.
Linda Hamilton. Wow, what a transformation for her.
Incredible. She's locked up in Pescadero State Hospital, a mental institution.
Because she won't stop talking about Judgment Day, about Skynet, trying to warn everyone.
And nobody believes her. They think she's crazy, dangerous.
So John's got that hanging over him too. He's angry, kind of lost, probably doesn't even know if he believes his mom's stories anymore.
Right. He's just trying to be a normal 10-year-old kid, basically.
And completely oblivious that these unstoppable forces are hurtling towards him. One to kill him, one to save him.
And that portrayal of John, his initial state, so important, isn't it? He's the relatable anchor amidst all the sci-fi chaos.
Makes it personal.
Exactly. He's not a warrior yet. He's just a kid, confused, acting out. His vulnerability really hammers home the stakes. You care about him.
Yeah.
Not just the abstract future of humanity.
Makes his journey, his acceptance of who he has to become, much more powerful.
Absolutely. You're invested in this specific kid.
So the inevitable happens. Collision course, Los Angeles. Both Terminators arrive. Same time, different methods.
Classic Cameron parallel action.
The T-800 is direct. Biker bar, clothes, bike, find John, boom.
No messing around. Pure efficiency.
But the T-1000, much sneakier.
Right. Mimics a cop straight away. Uses the badge, the authority, official channels to track John down. Chillingly effective infiltration.
And then, bang, it all kicks off. That chase sequence starts in the mall,
Total chaos.
spills out onto the streets, and then into those LA drainage canals, the aqueducts.
Iconic. Just pure adrenaline filmmaking. Masterfully done.
It's breathless. And then comes the big reveal, the twist for John. He's cornered, T-1000's moving in.
Looks like it's over for him.
And suddenly, boom, the T-800 saves him. That moment of realization must have been insane for him.
Mind-bending. The monster from his mom's stories is his bodyguard. Everything flips.
Totally. The whole dynamic shifts right there.
And this is really where the T-800 starts becoming more than just a protector. It steps into that almost father figure role, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating how that develops. John starts giving it orders.
Which is kind of amazing, this kid telling this killing machine what to do.
And he starts teaching it about humans, about not killing people.
Right. The why we cry stuff comes later, but even early on, John's reprogramming it in a different way. Morality. Empathy, almost.
The hasta la vista baby line. It's funny, but it comes directly from John teaching it slang.
Exactly. It's not just a cool catchphrase. It shows John's influence. These interactions aren't just comic relief.
No, they're crucial.
They foreshadow the T-800's entire arc. It's learning, adapting, picking up on things like loyalty, maybe even the beginnings of, well, humanity.
All guided by this troubled 10-year-old kid. It's a really unique relationship.
Becomes the emotional heart of the film in many ways.
So John's safe, relatively speaking. What's next? Gotta get mom.
Right. They need Sarah. Her knowledge, her skills, she's essential.
Which means breaking into Pescadero. High-security mental hospital.
Another incredibly tense sequence.
And when we see Sarah, she's almost unrecognizable from the first film. Physically, mentally.
Hardened, like tempered steel. Tormented, yeah, but also trained, ready, doing one-arm pull-ups in her cell.
She's become this warrior, but her first reaction to seeing the T-800?
Pure terror. Understandably, it's her worst nightmare made real, standing right there.
The PTSD is immediate, overwhelming. She tries to kill it.
But then, slowly, she realizes it's different. It's protecting John.
And the warrior mother kicks in, pushes down her own terror for her son.
It's an incredible moment. She joins the fight. That transformation is complete.
And just in time, because the T-1000 is, of course, right there.
Relentless. It infiltrates the hospital seamlessly.
Leads to another nail-biting escape. They barely make it out.
And this whole section, rescuing Sarah,
Yeah.
it really drives home that theme of parental love and sacrifice, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Her entire transformation is because of John.
Her love for him fuels everything. Enduring the institution, the training, facing her deepest fear in the T-800. It's all to protect him, protect the future he represents.
She puts everything on the line.
It shows the extraordinary lengths love can drive someone to. It makes her so compelling, not just a victim or a fighter, but this incredibly dedicated mother.
Okay, so the team is assembled, John, Sarah, and their unlikely bodyguard.
The weirdest family road trip ever.
Pretty much. And now Sarah drops the big one, how Skynet actually gets made, the origin story.
Cyberdyne Systems, the tech company.
And the chilling part, the core of Skynet. It's reverse engineered from the chip and the arm left behind by the first Terminator.
The one Sarah destroyed in '84. The ultimate irony. The attempt to stop it actually enabled it.
Wow. And the key person there? Miles Dyson.
Brilliant scientist, working on revolutionary AI, neural nets.
And he has no idea, does he? Completely unaware that his life's work is going to lead to the apocalypse.
None at all. He thinks he's changing the world for the better. Ambitious, driven, and tragically ignorant of the consequences.
Holding humanity's doom in his hands and just seeing progress.
And connecting this back, like you said earlier, this is where that theme of technology and responsibility just slams into focus.
Yeah, it becomes very explicit here.
Is knowledge dangerous? Or how we use it? Dyson isn't evil. He's just pushing boundaries without seeing the cliff edge.
A warning about unchecked progress, especially with AI, good intentions paving the road to, well, Judgment Day.
It shifts the film from just a chase movie into this really pointed commentary on science, ethics, foresight, stuff that's even more relevant now, arguably.
Yeah, definitely. So Sarah learns about Dyson, about Cyberdyne, and she makes a desperate choice.
Goes into full ends justify the means mode.
She decides she has to kill Dyson, stop Skynet before it starts, prevent the future war by committing murder now.
The weight of that decision, trying to save billions by taking one life, it's heavy.
She tracks him down, breaks into his house, gun ready, but she can't do it.
That moment of hesitation, it's crucial.
Her own humanity stops her, right? The very thing she's fighting for, she can't cross that line.
It's a powerful turning point.
Yep.
Instead of violence, they try reason.
They show him, they explain the future, the nukes, the machines, his role in it all. The T-800 even helps demonstrate, crushing its own hand.
And Dyson, faced with this undeniable, horrific truth, he makes this incredibly brave choice.
Agrees to help them destroy it all. His research, his lab, his entire life's work.
Sacrifices everything to undo the future he accidentally created.
That whole sequence, Sarah's choice, Dyson's choice, it feels central to that fate versus free will theme, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's perhaps the most explicit demonstration. Sarah chooses not to kill. Dyson chooses to sacrifice his work.
They are actively making their own fate.
Exactly. It underlines that message. No fate but what we make. Human choice, compassion, moral decisions. They can change things. It shifts the whole narrative from preventing a fixed future to actively building a different one.
It's about agency, real human agency.
Which is incredibly powerful and hopeful, even amidst all the darkness.
So Dyson's on board, the mission changes, full-on assault on Cyberdyne.
Right. Get the chip, get the arm, blow the whole place sky high.
What follows is just chaos. An incredibly tense, explosive break-in.
Setting the charges, alarms blaring.
And inevitably, the police show up. SWAT teams. It becomes a war zone inside the building.
Gunfire everywhere. And amidst all of that, Dyson gets hit. Badly.
Yeah, fatally wounded. But even dying, he finishes the job.
That moment where he holds up the detonator.
So tense. He manages to trigger the explosives with his last breath, sacrifices himself to make sure Skynet can't be born from his work.
A truly heroic, tragic end. He caused the problem unknowingly, but he gave his life to fix it.
Feels like victory, right? The building goes up, Skynet's origins erased.
You think, okay, maybe they did it. Maybe it's over.
The T-1000.
Of course. It survived the blast somehow, or maybe it was just delayed. Either way.
It's back. Relentless doesn't even begin to cover it. Damaged, glitching maybe, but still coming.
Still focused on its mission. It forces one last, final confrontation. Pushes them right to the edge.
Shows that just removing the origin point wasn't enough. The immediate threat is still there.
Need that ultimate solution.
And that ultimate showdown takes place in maybe the most perfect setting imaginable. A steel foundry.
Visually incredible.
Yeah.
The fire, the molten metal, the noise. It's hellish. Primal.
Right. Surrounded by all that heat and industry, they face the T-1000 one last time. And it's a brutal fight.
The T-1000 is glitching, malfunctioning from the damage, which almost makes it scarier, more unpredictable.
But in the end, that environment, the molten steel, that's what finally does it in.
Poetic justice, almost. The liquid metal machine overwhelmed by liquid metal.
It's the spectacular, almost agonizing destruction. You see it struggling, melting, mimicking Sarah's voice.
Distorting, yeah. Then finally disintegrating. Gone.
Huge moment of relief. You feel like you can finally breathe.
And the visual symbolism there is so strong, isn't it? This pinnacle of cold, calculating technology.
Yeah.
Destroyed by this raw, primal element. Manufactured complexity consumed by something fundamental. It feels like a victory for something more basic, more real, maybe even more human in a way.
Like nature or industry reclaiming this artificial threat.
Something like that. A powerful image.
But it's not quite over, is it? There's one last, absolutely gut-wrenching piece of business.
The final sacrifice.
To truly erase Skynet, to make sure Judgment Day can't happen, all the future tech has to go.
Including the T-800, their protector, their friend almost.
The chip inside him, his physical body, it all contains the seeds of Skynet. It has to be destroyed.
It's an unbearable choice, especially for John. He's formed this incredible bond with the machine.
And the T-800 itself. That moment where it explains...
I know now why you cry.
Chills. Just chills.
Yeah.
It understands human emotion, grief, but its programming prevents it from self-terminating.
Such a heartbreaking culmination of its arc. It's learned empathy, but it can't act on it in that final way.
So Sarah has to do it. The person who feared it most now has to be the one to destroy it.
The agony in her face as she lowers him into the steel.
And John just weeping. Raw grief for a machine.
It shows how deep that connection became.
And then...
The thumbs up.
Iconic. One of the most famous shots in cinema history, probably. As it sinks into the molten steel. A final gesture. Mission accomplished.
It's the end of the machines in this timeline, yeah. But it feels more like the victory of the human heart, you know, even a machine's adopted heart.
That journey the T-800 takes, it's incredible.
It really is. From killer machine to, well, something that inspires that level of grief. It forces you to think about what humanity even means. Is it biology or is it actions?
Yeah.
Empathy, sacrifice.
Right. The T-800's final act is arguably its most human.
Totally. It achieves a kind of nobility that transcends its programming. That thumbs up isn't just cool, it's meaningful. It understands the sacrifice, the value of it.
It learned the value of human life.
Exactly. Which makes the ending, Sarah's narration, feel earned.
Yeah, talk about that closing narration. It's different, isn't it?
Completely different tone from the first film's ending. And there's hope now. Cautious hope, maybe, but real hope.
The future isn't set. The certainty of doom is gone.
And her final thought, it connects everything. If a machine can learn the value of human life,
Maybe we can too.
maybe humanity, with all our flaws and conflicts, can choose a better path, can learn that lesson before it's too late.
It leaves you with this sense of possibility, of agency.
Yeah, it ties right back into that fate versus free will theme again.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah goes from being trapped by knowledge of the future to being an advocate for creating a better one.
It suggests that even with dangerous technology, even with our own destructive tendencies, choice matters most.
Our choices, our empathy, our will. That's what shapes the future. It's a remarkably optimistic message for such a dark story, really.
So, okay, stepping back from the plot, what are the big takeaways? Why does this film stick with us so much beyond just being awesome action?
Well, we've touched on them, but it's worth really laying them out. Fate versus free will is huge, central.
No fate but what we make for ourselves. It's literally carved into a table.
And the whole movie is an argument for it. Every choice matters. Every action changes the path. It's not just a tagline. It's the engine of the plot.
Then there's humanity and emotion, right? Mostly through the T-800.
Yeah, its journey is incredible. Learning, growing, understanding sacrifice. It forces us to ask what really makes us human. Was it just flesh and blood or something more?
Empathy, connection, selflessness, things it learns.
Things it ultimately embodies, maybe even better than some humans in the story. It's a fascinating mirror.
And tied into that, parental love and sacrifice. Sarah for John, obviously.
Fiercely. Her whole arc is driven by it. But also John for Sarah and, weirdly, the T-800 for John.
That protective bond. Family, however you define it.
Gives the whole thing its emotional weight, makes the stakes personal, not just global.
And finally, that warning about technology and responsibility.
Yeah, the Skynet origin story. Born from ambition, lack of foresight, reverse engineering a threat. It's a powerful cautionary tale.
Especially now, with AI developing so rapidly.
It resonates more than ever, that need for ethical consideration, for thinking about consequences before we build things we might not be able to control.
And what makes T2 so brilliant is how these themes aren't just, like, tacked on.
Not at all. They're woven right into the fabric of the film. The action serves the themes, the characters embody them, the effects visualize them.
The T-1000 isn't just a cool effect. It represents that cold, adaptable, potentially inhuman future.
Exactly. Everything works together. It's why it's more than just an action flick. It entertains, sure, but it makes you think, makes you feel.
Which brings us to its legacy. Widely considered one of the greatest sci-fi films ever. A landmark.
Undeniably.
Yeah.
We talked about the CGI game-changing, set the standard for a generation, influenced everything that came after.
But it's that blend, isn't it? The spectacle and the substance. Intense action, real emotional depth.
That's the magic formula.
Yeah.
And Schwarzenegger's performance, shifting from villain to hero, but still retaining that iconic presence. It redefined him.
Made the Terminator this complex, enduring figure.
T2 really showed what blockbuster filmmaking could be.
Yeah.
Smart, thrilling, emotional, thought-provoking, all at once.
So why does it still resonate so strongly after all this time?
I think it's those timeless messages, right? About choice, about humanity, about technology. They don't get old.
The questions it asks are still relevant. Maybe even more so.
Definitely. Concerns about AI, our responsibility,
Yeah.
they're front and center now. And the emotional core, love, loss, sacrifice, that's universal. It just works on so many levels. Great entertainment, deep reflection. That's why it lasts. Hashtag tag outro.
Well, this has been quite the deep dive into Terminator 2. It's amazing, really, how much there is to unpack in a film that, on the surface, is about killer robots.
It's layered.
Yeah.
So many levels to appreciate.
Yeah, the action, the effects, but also the human condition, our fears, our hopes, our potential for change. It really is a masterpiece.
Truly.
We hope digging into it like this encourages you, the listener, to maybe watch it again with some of these ideas in mind. See if you notice new things, appreciate the craft in a different way.
And maybe leave you with this thought to chew on. The film shows us a machine learning the value of human life, ultimately sacrificing itself. So what does it mean for us as people, as a society?
Yeah.
How do we truly learn and internalize that value? And looking at stories like T2, what responsibility do we have right now in shaping our own technological future? How do we make sure our creations reflect that value instead of, well, you know.
Instead of leading to Judgment Day.
Right. Because the future isn't set. There's no fate but what we make.
Powerful questions indeed. A perfect place to leave it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep thinking, keep exploring, and keep questioning.